where people had to stay in Mexico before we allowed them in, and not too many were allowed in because a lot of rough, tough people. Countries are emptying out their prisons into the United States right now. You know that. Their prisoners are being emptied into our country. So, Bill, I would say this. It took 2.5 years to win the lawsuits, mostly Democrat-inspired, some directly by the House, to stop us. And we broke that. We won the lawsuits. We started building the wall. We're just about finished. And Texas is going to finish it up. But we should have been able to... Can you imagine the government, they asked the federal government approval, because it's all been bought, to use the sections of the wall which have been removed just to put them in place. And they said no, the federal government said no, we're not going to give it to you.
So I just want to understand, so you said to Obrador, look, if you're not going to provide Mexican soldiers at the southern border with Guatemala and the northern border with the United States, then we're going to raise tariffs on all the products that you ship to the United States.
Well, we're going to put tariffs on because there were no tariffs, and we're going to put
tariffs on.
A lot of people don't understand, and he's a wonderful man, by the way. I have to tell you, the president of Mexico, for me, has been really a good man, a very good man, and he understood. But you know, it's very interesting. I told this story a little bit, once or twice, and I said. I went to the State Department. The woman who has been in charge of Mexico for many, many years, 22 years or something, I gave her a list of things that I want to get. I got a lot of those things from the Border Patrol and ICE. They gave me some, they're fantastic people, by the way. I bet you have some here. But they're fantastic people, incredible people. They work hard, they're brave, you know, they love our country. But they gave me a list of 10 things. They said, give me the 10 things you most want. So I ended up with 10 things that they most wanted. I gave it to the person in charge of Mexico at the State Department. And not in a wise guy way, she laughed when she saw the list. She said, sir, we've been trying to get this stuff for 20 years. We're not going to get any of this. So I said, how much do you want to bet? And I'll make you another bet. I'll get it very quickly. And she laughed. And, you know, she didn't know. So then the people came in, high representatives from Mexico came in. And I handed them a list. And they smiled also. They said, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do any of these. I said, here's what we're going to do. If this isn't approved by Monday, this was a Wednesday, if this isn't approved by Monday, we're going to put a 25% tariff on every single thing that you sell into the United States, including cars. Because, you know, they took 32% of our automobile manufacturing business over the course of 20 years, 25 years. So it was very interesting, though, the response. So they wouldn't even think about doing it. Nobody thought it would be possible. I would say I got the approval in about 2 seconds. They looked at me and they said, we'd love to do it.
I haven't asked you before, but when you were president, you met with a lot of Democrats. I mean, they were in and you conferred with them. Did any of them ever tell you, and if you could name the people, that would be good, why they didn't want effective border enforcement, the wall? Did any of them say, we don't want it?
So there are things that are not answerable. There are things that, who could believe, for instance, voter ID, for instance, defund the police, for instance, open borders. Who would want open borders with millions of people coming in? Worse than we've ever had. We had the strongest border in the history of our country 1 year ago, and today we have the weakest in the history of our country. Maybe the weakest in the history of the world, because I can't imagine any country would allow what's happening to our country. So, you know, when you ask that, you just say, they're either crazy or they don't love our country.
Did they ever say to you, Mr. President, we don't want the wall because of this reason?
No. Well, they said because we want modern technology. They want drones. I said, why? So you can watch everybody pour in. Remember, I used to say in the campaign, no, they said, no, we want modern technology. Great, that's wonderful. We'll take pictures of everybody coming in. Remember in the campaign, I used to say, because, you know, in the computer business, and we all invest in different things, a computer is developed and about 3 days later it's obsolete, right? There are two things that are never going to be obsolete. What are they? A wall and a wheel. A wheel is always going to be there no matter what you have, and a wall is always going to be there no matter what you have. But it's a wheel and a wall. Now, walls work. They definitely work. You know, the Vatican was a little critical for a little bit of a while, and then I said, they probably have the largest wall. Did you ever see the wall around the Vatican? And I said, you get rid of yours, and we'll get rid of ours.
Were you surprised that on his first day in office, President Biden knocked out the Remain in Mexico policy. Were you surprised? Did that surprise you?
I'd have to say yes. Look, it was so good. We had people flowing up in caravans. I think it was my name. I called it a caravan because we had some. And ultimately, you have to make it so difficult they don't do it. And you have to tell them they're not coming into the country. What happened is when he was campaigning, he said, we want everybody to come in, everybody. So everybody was saying, oh, this is a great thing. Millions of people have already entered our country. Many of these people we don't want in our country because many of these people are, as an example with that horror show in Afghanistan, are going to be terrorists. We'll be paying a price for this for a long time. The people coming up through South America, they are a lot of people that you're not going to want, and some people we're going to want. But a lot of these people that are coming in, they're totally unchecked, they're totally unvetted, and I'm not just talking in terms of vaccines, and I'm not talking in terms of masks, I'm not talking, they are people, we have no idea where the hell they come from. The Democrats are crazy. You look at the, and it's a terrible thing to say, I think they're crazy. Either they're crazy, there's one of three things. They're crazy, which I don't think they are. They're stupid, which I don't think they are. Or they hate our country. One of those things. It's got to be one of those things.
All right, let's get
pretty hard to believe, actually.
This time last year, you were president, and there was no inflation at all.
What a great time we did. What a job we did.
So this time last year, we're in the middle of the pandemic, no inflation at all. Now, the fastest inflation ever. Why? What happened?
So I think it really started with energy. Texas knows something about energy. Remember when I used to say they're lying because they said, no, we're going to keep prices the same. They didn't have any intention. You know, I filled up the strategic reserves for almost nothing, relatively speaking, for nothing. And all of that, now they're using strategic reserves. That's supposed to be for wars and for real, not to get the price down. Now they're using the oil. This hadn't been done in many, many decades. No president wants to do that. They don't want to spend money. They don't get credit for it. I filled it up when we hit a beautiful low price. I filled up 75 billion barrels of oil. We filled it up. Now he's taking that oil and trying to get the gas price down. That's very artificial, not going to work. But I think the biggest problem is energy. Energy's got, we were at $1.87 for gasoline, $1.87 a gallon. Now in some places in California, you're over $7, $7.77 actually I saw. But the rest is following. And in a lot of places here, but in a lot of places, you're at $4 and $5. It's going way up. And I used to say that in the campaign. I never knew it was going to be as bad, and I never knew it was going to be as fast as it is. But when energy goes up, everything goes up. Everything goes up. And energy is only going to get higher. You know what they're doing now? They're back to negotiating with OPEC, a term I didn't even use because we didn't need OPEC. They're back to negotiating with Russia, Saudi Arabia, and all of these other oil-producing states. It is so sad. By the way, we were, for the first time, I think ever, they say in 73 years, I think ever, we were energy independent. 1 year ago. And today we're begging Russia and other countries. And by the way, Russia is becoming rich. I stopped their pipeline, and then they say Trump was soft on Russia. The biggest thing they ever did was the pipeline, ever. They've never had anything. I stopped it cold. And one of his early acts also was approving that pipeline. And by the way, ending the Keystone XL pipeline, right? He ended that. But, you know, it's interesting. You do that, you put massive sanctions. And by the way, it's good to get along with Russia. And it's good to get along with these countries. But you can't, look, when you have the kind of weaponry that we all have, weapons like nobody's ever seen before, I've seen them. It's good to get along, it's good to be friendly, but you don't want to have people take advantage. And China's been taking advantage, and Russia's been taking advantage. And when you look at Iran, what they've done, they were ready. Had the election not been rigged, we would have had a deal with Iran in the first week.
Just want to stay on President Biden says that he attacked the fossil fuel industry, which he obviously did, in the name of global warming, in the name of climate change. First of all, do you believe that climate change is a severe problem?
Look, we want clean air and we want clean water. And by the way, the last year of our presidency, let's see what happens in the future, right? Let's see. But air quality was the best it's been in like 40 years. And you know, once you get too far back, you didn't have so many people here, so we don't want to compete with 200 years ago. But it was the best it's been in 40 or 50 years. We had the best numbers. With all of the things, we never produced that many people working, 160 million. Everything was going great until COVID came in, and then we rebuilt it again a second time. And he took over a pallet, a plate that was so beautiful, and he blew it. And now, by the way, just to interject, remember, we will solve COVID. We will solve COVID. More incidents of COVID over the last few days than we've ever had. It's worse than it's ever been. And they have vaccines, and they have Regeneron and all sorts of therapeutics that are so great. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I just want to be clear. You do believe that global warming is a problem?
I think the biggest problem we have is potential nuclear warming, to be honest with you. Nobody
So it's far down the list on your priority.
But when I hear the ocean is going to rise 1/100th of an inch over the next 200 years. Okay? And we'll be producing more beachfront property. Again, I've heard of worse things. Look, we're going to go hotter, we're going to go cooler. Remember, they used to use global warming. Then all of a sudden, vast parts of the planet were very cool, so they got away from it. They have about six different. Now they call it climate change because that you can't go wrong. It's changing. The climate is changing. I believe in clean air. I believe in clean water, and I believe in having unbelievably successful industry. You know, I ended the Paris Environmental Accords, which was one of the great rip-offs of this country of all time. China doesn't even kick in for another 10 years. Russia kicks on using one of the dirtiest states. It was a date where the air was very dirty. That's their comparison. And we kicked in immediately. It was going to cost us over $1 trillion. We were going to have to close businesses. We would have been sued by every group. You know, in Russia they don't get sued. In China they don't get sued. They don't have people suing Putin and all